Hi there, and welcome to Life Happens. I'm Dr. Derrick Mueller,
And I'm Stacy Mueller.
and we want to talk about the power of story, the power of testimony. Each one of us have a story, a testimony, and it shapes who we are, and it shapes others. And I think we believe that sometimes as we go through the tough things of life, Stacy, it's important for us to know that we're not alone.
We're not alone, whether it be divorce, separation, loss.
Remarriage, child, disease, sickness, that we can go through it. So what we want to do is we want to share a little bit of our story so that you can connect at different levels. And really the purpose is to know that you're not alone. That other people may have taken, maybe not the exact journey that you've done, but a similar journey. For myself, is at the age of 2, my sister and I my mom left, and so all of a sudden we were in different foster homes. And my dad tried to do what he could, but we were in about 7 different foster homes. Some of those foster homes were wonderful homes. At one of the homes, the mother actually died, and so we were shipped off. And in another home, my sister and I were split off, which was really tragic for us as young kids. You can imagine, because family was so important. That's the only thing I had was my sister. And then in one of the homes, actually, the disciplinary tool was actually a baseball bat. It was a little Bobby bat from Britain, but I can remember every single notch on it. And I remember wondering, what is love really like? I guess love is for a different brand of kids, and I would never experience that love.
And I was the youngest of 3 daughters. We lived in the country. My mother was a single mother, working hard, her several jobs to raise the girls. When I was 16, I left home and moved to the city. And in that time, I needed a guardian. I had to have someone sign for me to finish my high school years. And after I finished my high school years, was really a pivotal time in my life to be in my early 20s, to really seek, there was something missing in my life. And I didn't really know what that journey was all about.
For myself, is after a court case, I found myself as a new stepfather. And it was tough. I had a lot of asthma problems. I'd fallen out of a 3-story building when I was a kid, so I didn't quite function like everybody else. And don't laugh, honey.
You mean talking now or like that? Oh, okay.
But I didn't react the way other people did. And so high school was a tough time. And I remember I have 2 scars actually on my forehead where my friends took my face and they decorated the back of a bus with it. And high school was tough. And what was even tougher was going it alone. Because I had a mom that was an alcoholic, and things got even tougher in our home.
Well, during the time in my early 20s, I was a person searching for truth, searching for something deeper, meaning of life. I made a call, and it was actually a television show, and they were talking about having faith, having courage, and I wanted that. So I picked up the phone and I called. And since that journey, I then began to piece my life together from the pieces of my childhood.
You would never know that you were a timid woman at all, because you have so much strength, honey.
Thank you. Well, I feel that I am strong because I'm in this relationship too, because that gives strength when you have that unity and that joy.
And relationships can bring strengths, but they also can discourage you. And I think I found at one point I was so discouraged in my own life with my mom being an alcoholic, my stepfather was abusing my sister, and I finally got tired of everybody laughing at me. I was a stupid kid in school, and so I hung a rope up in my room at the age of 14, and I was tired of being everybody's jokes. I was tired of being the laughing stock at school. And I remembered putting the rope up and saying, I have no hope. I have no hope at all. And that's a tough point to be. We've both been in those places in our life where we feel that it's hopeless. And having courage to move forward, not knowing what the future held, becomes even more difficult.
And we were learning about purpose trumping happiness, that we wanted to find purpose in our life. And so the journey continued. As into my 20s, I married, had 4 boys, and our marriage continued for 20 years.
I was engaged when I was 17 and was kicked out when I was 16. My stepfather was there, and I accused him of abusing my sister, and that didn't end up well, and so I ended up on the streets for a while, which was tough because those were alone times, and I really thought I was alone. There was people in the community and a local church that came and surrounded me, and I started to realize that I was not alone, that I could muster up some courage to encounter life, but I never envisioned being all by myself. I remember the first night I slept on the streets. It was horrifying and scary. I remember someone giving me $5, and I actually sort of paced it so that I could have $5 hamburgers along the way.
And I'll never understand, that's just such a touching part of your journey, that to see where you've come from now. During my marriage of my 20 years, there were times when I felt that I lost my voice because of, be it that, strength of someone else. I felt that maybe I wasn't strong, that I was weak, or maybe that was used against me. I couldn't quite figure out where I fit in. All I knew is that I was a mother, and I love my children. And so when I received the phone call that...
You had how many boys, honey?
4.
4 wonderful. They're all weightlifters. You need to know that her boys are strong boys, and they're strong because of this one.
And your 4 children are beautiful. We have 3 boys, and then he has a daughter. So
together we're in a blended family, and we have seven boys, 1 girl, and 2 grandchildren.
Yes, and
but there came that day.
There came that day when I received a phone call that my husband of 20 years was leaving and said he didn't love me anymore, and that we were going to be divorced. And I really didn't feel like I had a choice. So it was around Mother's Day, and I think of the feelings that I had to tell the little boys, and I remember the cry that I heard with them. I don't know if I'll ever hear that again, but it was real, and so.
My journey was similar in that after I was married young, and we had children young. I had 4 children, and was married for 30 years. I'd been away. Actually, in my last year, I was on a book tour, and it seems like life was at its best. Things were going well. I was traveling to different countries, enjoying it, and thought this was the best days of life. Kids were starting to leave home, and then after 30 years of marriage, I remember I came home to the airport, and my son picked me up, which was kind of disconcerting. And I realized that as I went home, there was a note on the kitchen table, and I began to read it. And if you could see what's in my heart, it broke at that point. I broke and uncontrollably sobbed. As I read the note, it said, "I'm sorry, but I've been seeing other men. I didn't mean to do this to you. I'll give you some time and talk to you soon." And at that instant, my life changed. My work life changed. My family life changed. Everything that I had focused and built on was changed. And I didn't feel strong. I felt weak. I didn't have any confidence. And I was afraid.
And fear in my life was the threat of continuous calls, continuous police coming to my home, pulling my boys downstairs, trying to protect, putting certain bars on my windows and things, because they were, I really commend the police in that way to protect people in situations. And for that, I'm grateful in our area. But during that time, I would receive phone calls, one being such that was, you can run, but you can't hide. And when I find you, you're going to burn. And it would elevate, and it would be all-consuming. And I would lay on the couch feeling very fearful, but I knew I had something in me to rise up have and take hold of some courage, because I needed to step into that place to be the example to the boys. I had to step up and be the best mother that I could be. Couldn't be anybody else. I just had to be myself, but they needed someone to look to, someone to have hope. And that's where that second part of my journey of, getting 3 jobs, I think they thought that the oven was the crock pot because I was always cooking and always doing because I just wanted to make sure that the needs were met. And my priorities were put in the right place, I believe.
You need to know that those times are lonely times. And when life happens through divorce, in our case it was separation, then divorce, and then trying just to cope with life. And with Stacy, it was kids. And then there's that other side. And sometimes you don't feel like you can get through. And I remember my kids saying to me, "Dad, it's okay to date." And I started going online. I was in an older church, and so there wasn't a lot of people there, and they all had these little things that you walk around with. And so I went online. Yes, I know, I went online. And
So did I.
I saw this beautiful girl, and I was looking for someone close who was the same faith, who had the same ideals. And when I wrote her, you needed to know something, honey. It was New Year's Eve, and my kids had already said, "You know what? Let's do something." We went down to New York, and I said that, I was in New York, and I said, in the evening I had nothing to do, so I was going online. So I was chatting, and this was beautiful, which is you, honey, the beautiful lady was Stacy. I went online, and she looked like she was busy talking to other guys, so I was afraid to go on. So I left a little message, and sometimes you leave a smile, and so I left a smile. And the very next day, do you remember what you did?
I went offline.
The very next day, she went offline. Seriously.
Well, I felt that, after being on there for a little bit, I thought, maybe this isn't for me. God can just bring me someone, or even if I don't even need to, I've been a single mom, I can do this, it's okay. And then when I was closing down my profile, when I just saw just a little bit more about his faith and what he believed, I just pressed send, my email and my number, and that was the turning point.
But you need to know what I received. First of all, I received an email that says, "I'm going offline, period." And I went, well, that didn't work out too well for me. And then I saw another email, "and you left your phone number to a complete stranger."
Go figure.
It's interesting, we've been given a second chance. And when life happens, there is a second chance. You can be strong through no matter what happens. Stacy had 4 boys that are weightlifters. You handle things very cautiously when you approach them.
Absolutely, and it took several months before Derrick met the boys. He would come to the door with beautiful platters of food, and they would go, "Who is that?" I go, "We're going on a date. That date starts here, ends here." And so I would pass the food in the door, and they would look over, and I would say, "This is when I'm leaving, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm coming home." I'm very structured at home because I had 4 young men looking at every decision that I was making, and I wanted them to be able to say, "This is a person that may be significant in her life," and they also gave the green light for us to go out, and he met them, and of course, they called him Dad probably the day of our wedding. So each one of the boys ended up walking me down the aisle, passing me from one son to the next. They actually did it in the birth order, so my oldest son was the last that was able to give me away.
In conclusion, we just want to say that life will happen. It will sometimes hit us in the face and leave us sprawling on the ground. But you can be strong.
Yes.
And you can be courageous.
Absolutely, and it took courage to go back to school to become a nurse. So at 46, I took the challenge of educating and becoming a nurse. So I know that if I can do that in this situation, anyone could do that as well. When I think about John 14 says, "I am the way," he's not asking us to make a way. He's just asking us not to give up. He's asking us to have courage.
And so along your way, don't give up. And you can be strong. We go through the ups and downs. And someone said, "How does a blended family work for you?" And I said, "It's kind of like oil and vinegar." Right? And they went, "That doesn't mix." Exactly. It doesn't mix.
Yeah.
But what you need to do to make it work is you got to shake it. And you got to keep shaking it. And as long as you keep shaking, or as long as you keep working at it,
Yes.
it will work. I'm Derrick Mueller.
And I'm Stacy Mueller.
Remember, life
Life happens.